What's up YouTube? KS Gun Guy here. Thanks for joining me today as always. If you like what you see here, do be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and there's plenty more content on the way. So I'm excited to start a new video series on the channel, and it's going to be basically if I could only have one. And I'm going to be taking two firearms, whether very similar or in some cases pretty different in terms of their manual of arms and operation. I'm going to be comparing them from an ergonomic standpoint, from a feature standpoint, from a value standpoint, from a shooting standpoint, how they compare to each other, and then at the end of the video I'll announce a winner. And of course all of this is personal opinion. You may differ on that. I'm looking forward to reading your comments about these, whether you have experiences with both or one or the other, which one you like, which one you don't like quite as much, or just any of those general thoughts. I'm really looking forward to that. So for this video, I picked two firearms, the Walther PPQ M2 and the Canik TP9SF Elite. And there are a couple of reasons why I picked these two. I'm going to get this out of the way. It's a dummy round, of course, just to stand up that TP9. It doesn't like to stand up on its own. Both of these are unloaded and will remain so for the rest of the video. I do have an empty magazine in both. I just prefer that. So I chose both of these firearms for one distinct reason, and that stupid Canik. They both have fantastic triggers. Of course, the PPQ M2 has been known for quite some time as having one of the best, and in some cases, some people say the best trigger for a striker-fired polymer firearm. But the Canik is no slouch either. So we'll definitely spend some time on those triggers, but we'll also talk about some of the other features, that sort of thing. Now, this is not a deep dive on either of these guns. We're not going to be talking specific stats or really getting into the nitty-gritty of things here. So if you want to learn more about those, be sure to check out my other independent videos on each one of these firearms. And there are a lot of other great videos on both of these as well, so check those out. So from a feature standpoint, both of these do have ambidextrous slide releases. They both have accessory rails for lights, lasers, grenade launchers. They both have ambidextrous magazine releases. You can switch them out. They both have 15-round magazines. So that's where they are very similar. We start to get into some differences when we start talking about a couple of things. First off, you'll notice right away from an aesthetics standpoint, if nothing else, the Canik is going to stand out a little bit differently from the PPQ M2. First and foremost, because at least for these two models comparing, I know there are some other models of the PPQ, but for these two, the Canik does have the tungsten slide on it, which is really nice, and it also has a red safety lever or dingus in it. That gives it a little bit of a custom look. I like that quite a bit. Versus the PPQ, at least this is the all-black model. I know they have an FDE and a tungsten model. They have I think it's like a navy model with a threaded barrel on it. So there's some other options there as well. But this one is the all-black model, and so it really is an all-black firearm. So nothing really stand out in terms of giving it kind of a unique look. But both of them do have front serrations, back serrations, and so their operation is very similar. From a sight standpoint, the PPQ M2 out of the box comes with polymer sights. That's a knock on the gun. I don't like any gun that comes with polymer sights, and the first thing I always want to do is switch it out, and in this case I switched this out for Meprolite night sights, and I like the Meprolite certainly from a cost standpoint, and they function really well. They hold up really nicely. So there's your sight picture on that, but aside from the sights, otherwise it's fine out of the box, at least from my perspective. Now the Canik is a little bit different. It does come with a Novak style back sight that's all black, and then it's got fiber optic rod. See if I can get that lined up just right for you. The fiber optic rod in front, of course it comes with the red fiber optic on the gun, but it also has a green one that you can swap out. And I like that. I like that it comes with what I would consider at least slightly upgraded sights. Now, the one bummer about this back sight, it would be a real challenge to do any one-handed manipulations with this versus the PPQ. Certainly has, for at least the Meprolites, it's got a significant ledge. You can really get that on your belt or the edge of a table, something like that. So I would give the edge a little bit to the Canik in terms of its sights. I would also give the edge to the Canik in terms of its overall look and in looking a little bit more custom. Now, from an ergonomic standpoint, and the PPQ M2 has long been touted as having fantastic ergonomics, so hopefully you can see the grip texture that does go all the way around front, back, and the sides, and there are these kind of little swigglies, or whatever you want to call them, little texture squigglies, and it's very similar to the HK, like the P30 or the VP9, that sort of thing. And it also is heavily contoured. It does have some finger grooves, although they're not very pronounced, not like maybe a Glock Gen 3 or Gen 4, something like that. They're very subtle. So at least for my hands, and I have kind of average large hands, it fits very, very nicely. The second I picked up the PPQ M2, I really kind of fell in love with it from an ergonomic standpoint. It fit really nicely in my hand. Now the Canik, although the Canik is ergonomic and it fits well in my hand, it's got a little bit more of a straight grip. Now, both of these, of course, do have back straps that you can change out. So you can change the curvature and the size a little bit of the back strap, but it does have a front grip. Now, it's all textured very nicely, and it's slightly different texture. These have little pyramids on the front and the back, and then on the side it's just kind of a texture with the Canik logo here. But it is certainly ergonomic. I do like one extra feature here on the left side of the firearm. It does have some texture up here, so if you hold the gun like this and you ride your thumb up on the frame, it gives you a reference point, which is really nice, whereas the Walther doesn't. But from an ergonomic standpoint, I would say that the Walther does edge out the Canik a little bit. Again, both feel pretty good in my hand, but the Walther just feels a little bit more custom from a grip standpoint, which is very nice. Now, all right, so let's get to the heart of the matter. Let's talk about the triggers on both of these. So let's talk about the Canik trigger first. Of course, again, it is unloaded. So with the Canik, you've got a fair amount of uptake here. However, I would say it is very smooth. You start to meet a little bit of resistance about 3/4 of the way there, but again, it's smooth, and then you get to a nice defined wall, and you've got your break, and it's light and it's crisp. I like it quite a bit. And then for your reset is really nice. It's audible, it's tactile, and it's not too far away at all. Now you've got a little bit of uptake back to the wall, but not a lot. So this gun really kind of tells you, hey, let's go, and let's go a little bit faster. Again, here's your uptake, and there's your wall, and there's your break, and there's your reset, and you're good to go again. I like the trigger on this quite a bit. Let's go ahead and see how this trigger measures with the Lyman gauge. We'll do this just a couple of times here. All right, 3 pounds, 13 ounces, almost 3 pounds, 14 ounces. We'll do this again. Just a couple of times. It gets boring after that. Okay, 4 pounds, 4.2 ounces. I will do just one more, simply because that was not 100% consistent. The Canik trigger is a little bit tricky to pull with the gauge, unfortunately, but we'll try it one more time. All right, 4 pounds, 4.4 ounces. That's a little bit more consistent there. So you're going to be looking right about 4 pounds, just a little bit over for the Canik trigger, and again, very, very smooth on that. I like that. I like that trigger quite a bit. Now for the PPQ M2. I'll go ahead and get that magazine out of the way. Again, the PPQ M2 is just, it's universally known as one of the better, if not one of the best triggers out there, at least in terms of striker-fired firearms. But let's go ahead and take a look. So we've got our uptake here, and it's a heavier uptake. It's certainly smooth. I would definitely say it's smooth. However, there's a little bit more resistance there. I think the spring rather is just a little bit stronger. So we do get to our wall, and there's our break. Once again, very crisp break. Now it's a heavier break, but very crisp nonetheless. And there's our reset, and it's an incredibly short reset, and it's audible and it's tactile, and you have just about 1 millimeter of uptake back to your wall, and there's your break, and there's your reset. Very consistent. I see why people like the trigger on the PPQ M2 so much. It really is fantastic. So let's go ahead and see how this measures on the gauge. We'll just do a couple again. Hopefully we can get it pretty consistent. Okay, 5 pounds, 1.5 ounces. That's a little bit heavier than I normally get on this. It's always a trick to do this on camera consistently, but we're going to try it again nonetheless. Okay, 5 pounds, 1.9 ounces. Since I did 3 with the Canik, we'll do one more with the PPQ, just for the sake of argument. And 4 pounds, 12 ounces. So right around the 5 pound mark. I've tested this off and on quite a few times over the last few months, and I usually get just under 5 pounds. So that's pretty consistent, not too bad. And again, it is certainly a crisp trigger. Now the Canik is just a little bit lighter, so take that for what it's worth. I don't know that one is necessarily better than the other, but both certainly smooth, and you definitely know what those triggers are doing. So speaking of triggers, let's go ahead and take a look at some footage at the range and see how these guys stack up. Alright, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that footage at the range. So, I was trying a couple of different things when I was shooting both of these firearms, and I was going back and forth between the two. I didn't spend all of my time on one and then go to the next one. I really wanted to mix it up a little bit, and that might be for the better, it might be for the worse, because it's a little bit harder to nail down the consistency of the firearms, but that's simply how I chose to do it. I will probably continue to do that as I do more of these videos, but I was going for just kind of some average shooting. I was trying to do a little bit more accuracy shooting, although if you've seen my other videos, I'm not a very accurate shooter. I'm not a bullseye shooter by any stretch, but I was definitely able to derive some consistency in patterns with the occasional errant shot, of course. It's just, I like to mix it up a little bit, but in consistency, you can start to see some patterns in that shooting. And then at the very end of the shooting, I did a little bit of rapid fire, not uncontrollable rapid fire, but fast enough where I could again try and identify a little bit of a pattern there. So both of these guns, I'll get my dummy round out of the way again here, both of these guns shot very well. Now, I've said before with the Canik Elite that I shoot it a little bit high, and a lot of it has to do with the sight picture and the height of the, certainly the rear sight, and so I have to try and remind myself to really bury that front sight down at the very bottom of the U on the back sight. But aside from that, both of them were certainly consistent and a lot of fun to shoot. Now, from an accuracy standpoint, if I was really trying to judge based on which one was as close as possible to the bullseye and most consistent, it would be the PPQ. Not by much, but it would be the PPQ a little bit. And certainly when I got to rapid fire shooting at the very end of the session, and I only did 20 rounds of each, just really for fun, but also to see what that pattern was. The PPQ is a little bit more consistent. Now, how often are you going to be doing that? Probably not very often, but again, from a consistency standpoint, the PPQ just kind of wins out a little bit. So a lot of fun for both of them to shoot, but overall, I think certainly in terms of shootability and overall build, the PPQ is going to win. So in terms of value, however, things do change a little bit because the Canik, you can generally find the Canik under 500, sometimes under 450, and I think I've heard in a couple of places under $400, and you walk away with kind of a custom looking gun, reasonably good ergonomics, decent sights, and then all of the other accessories and things that you would find in just about any standard polymer firearm these days. When you're getting into that kind of money, it's a heck of a value. It's a really good bargain. Whereas the PPQ M2, you can find these for $600, $550, and in some cases around $500. But generally speaking, you're in that $500 to $600 range. Plus, it comes with polymer sights, and at least for me, I prefer to switch those out when possible. So that adds on a little bit to the money spent on the firearm. But it otherwise does come with all the usual accessories again that you would find in most of your polymer firearms. But you're spending a little bit more money. Now, you could argue that the build quality is maybe a little bit higher, and it's been around a little bit longer, so it's got a little bit more of a track record to it. And I know that the Canik TP9SF Elite had a bit of a rocky start, at least with the first batch or two of the firearms. I think they've worked that out, though, and you always have your rubs, I guess, when you're first putting out a firearm. So I think they've worked that out. But in terms of value, again, I'd have to give the leg up to the Canik. Overall, which one wins out? And again, this is merely personal opinion, and of course, I'm looking forward to hearing what you think as well. But overall, I think the PPQ does win, but man, only by a little bit. From an ergonomic standpoint, from a shootability standpoint, and a build quality standpoint, I think the PPQ wins. However, from a looks standpoint and from a value standpoint, I think the Canik wins. So both have their pluses and minuses. They're both great guns. I have them both. I like them both. But at the end of the day, if I could only choose one, I would choose the PPQ M2. So again, I'm looking forward to hearing what you think. Be sure to leave a comment, and of course, like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you next time. Thanks.